Good morning, nation. John here. I guess I'm here. I guess this thing is working. How y'all doing this morning? Thank you for making me a part of your day. So, are you prepping for the second Great Depression? You should be. We're going to talk about it this morning. So, a brand new jobs report is out. Woo! 235,000 jobs added to the economy. This sounds like a great number, but this is actually a panic number coming out of the White House. And here's why. So we were talking a couple of days ago. I think it was a couple of days ago, folks. There are right now 5.5 million unemployed people out here. And these 5.5 million unemployed people, for whatever reason, they're no longer drawing unemployment. They're not getting benefits. They just haven't rejoined the workforce. 5.5 million people have just said, "Nah, I'm good, son." There are probably a few of you have commented and said you've applied everywhere and you just can't get a job. So there are some of these folks trying to re-enter the workforce, but for the most part, this 5.5 million, they're just not interested in a job. And as we were talking the other day, September the 6th, just in a few days, 7.5 million more Americans are set to join these folks because they're going to lose their unemployment. They are now going to be with this group of 5.5 million. Okay, so that's a huge number of unemployed. Some of those folks that are going to lose their unemployment in a couple of days, they will find other employment. But a lot of these folks, we're in an age now here in the United States where they're just not interested. This could be the concept of socialism. This could be the concept of the government will take care of me. I don't really know what's going through these folks' heads. But again, they would just rather do their own thing. Now I'm going to drop some intel down below, which is what we're going to be talking about this morning. We were talking about this intel yesterday over on Patreon. Yes, folks, we have a Patreon here at Prepper Nation. Starts at $1 a month. The link is down below, and there is your cheap plug for the morning. So we were talking about it on Patreon, and if the report is accurate, I think it came from Yahoo Finance or something like that. They are estimating by year's end, by the end of the year, half of all American employers are going to mandate the whiskey shot. Hopefully you folks know what I'm talking about. Half of all employers here in the United States by the end of the year. Some of them are already doing it, but this is mostly your medical companies, your hospitals and things, doctors' offices, and in certain states, government employees, whether that's education, whether that's people that just straight out work for the state government. But this is a lot of employers now that are making that shift and making that decision to begin mandating this stuff. What does it mean for the American workforce? Well, I personally think, let me know what y'all think in the comments, but I believe it's going to lead to a lot of people just making the decision to leave the workforce altogether. And here's my reasoning for this, okay? This thing, again, hopefully y'all know what I'm talking about, has been free for roughly, 9 months now? 8 months, 9 months? On every corner, at every pharmacy, everywhere. Tents, man, they got this stuff set up. Flea markets, everywhere. The mobile deals for the last 8 or 9 months, free of charge, all over America. Small town America, larger cities, everywhere. And I personally think the people that are interested in this deal, they've already gotten it. Those who are interested have already gotten it. The fence riders may have bitten on the lottery or the free whatever. They were giving tons of stuff out for free, right? Or the incentives through employers. The people that were riding the fence probably bid on that. And now we're left with people who just are not interested. So there are going to be some jobs here in the United States. This is opinion, folks. Your bigger fish jobs, your six-figure jobs, maybe you're a doctor, or maybe you are some sort of a pilot making tons of money, or I don't really know. I've worked average jobs my entire life, so I don't really know who gets paid $100,000 and up. But for the folks that do, they are going to be more prone to take a knee and say, "Yep, I'm not really interested, but I'm not going to lose a job making $110,000 a year. So yeah, count me in at this point. You got me, son. You painted me into a corner." These folks are going to, I think, comply for the most part. The average American that works jobs like I've worked my entire life, look, folks, I've worked fast food. I've stocked grocery shelves. Okay. I've worked at Walmart and things, and at call centers. I worked at a call center for Dish Network. So these are average jobs. These are, $12 an hour jobs. I actually worked right out of high school. I worked a job making 25 cents above minimum wage and was proud to do it. Proud to get it. I felt like $1 million when I got my paycheck, But I think people that have not complied by now, that are making $12 an hour, probably are just going to leave their jobs. They're not going to comply. $12, $13 an hour, $15 an hour. I think people are going to just leave their jobs. This is my personal opinion. Looking back at the jobs I've worked, I can't think of a single job where if they would have come in and threatened, my employment, unless you make this decision, where I would have said, "Okay, yeah, man, I'll do what you want me to do. I got to keep this job." No, every single job I would have given the Irish exit. You know what I mean? For those of you that know what that is. So inflation is crazy on the rise. Prices are going up on everything that you can actually find. There's shortages. We'll talk about that in the next video. Next video, I think I'm going to label it Hard Candy Christmas 2.0 or something, because I did one last year, but we'll talk about that next time. But inflation is crazy right now with no end in sight. What we need to remember, folks, okay, and this is very important. As more Americans leave the workforce, whether it is the 7.5 million getting ready to leave on the 6th, whether it is people that, their manager at Jimmy John's comes in and says, "Son, you're going to get this or you're going to lose your job." And they're like, and they're just out of there. As people leave these jobs, they are going to begin to depend on government programs. Okay, now this can be unemployment. This can be, there are numerous programs. And I always get those comments, here at Prepper Nation where people are like, "We don't need any socialism. I don't want any socialism in this country." I'm like, we already have some socialism, okay? These programs, many of them were set up after the first Great Depression, kind of as a safety net, if you will, but they weren't meant as long-term solutions. Okay, so many of these programs, whether it be unemployment, whether it be food stamps or whatever, they weren't meant to support somebody for 10 or 15 years. They were meant as short-term solutions to help people out until they find another job. Problem is, not enough people are looking for a job anymore. I know some of you are. So Americans are going to become unemployed by the droves by the end of the year. That's my prediction, at least. And they're going to begin to depend on these programs more and more. These programs are going to fail. We saw this during the first Great Depression. There were a few programs, not many. They just ran out of money. They didn't have the resources anymore to help all of the people they needed to help. So the first depression, we saw mass unemployment. We saw social programs, for the most part, fail completely. And people just didn't know what to do. It's like the ultimate prepping situation. You know, what do you do at that point? Hopefully you're already prepared. All of the economic indicators are there for a second Great Depression. In my opinion, you know, I'm not a economist or, you know, whatever. I'm not one of these people on TV, these egghead people trying to tell you exactly, you know, to the 10th of a percentage. But to me, the indicators are there. There are a lot of parallels between, you know, the year leading into the first Great Depression and the year that we're looking at right now. And it just seemed, I was telling the folks on Patreon yesterday, it seems odd to me that this is the hill, out of all of the hills capitalism is willing to die on, this is the hill. This is the one, because you can't hire enough people now. A lot, you know, most employers here in the United States, they're begging for help. You know, sign-on bonus, McDonald's, $1,000, please come work for us. We don't care what your history looks like. Just come, be a heartbeat and come through the door. Now, these same employers that are begging for help are now throwing down ultimatums. Again, if this intel is correct. And to me, this seems very odd that you would try and throw down ultimatums on a workforce that doesn't really want to be there in the first place. A lot of the people that are working gnarly hours, double shifts and things like that, so they don't want to be there. You know, they're sick of working as it is. They're sick of seeing their neighbors not working and having the same stuff. And to have an employer come and point at them and say, you're going to do this, I personally believe most Americans are just going to walk away at that point. But again, that's just me. How do you prepare for the second Great Depression? Well, you study the first Great Depression. You study the things like the shortages and things. Milk was in very short supply. Meats, a lot of the meals did not involve meat. And of course, there's inflation on meats right now, so it is relevant, but that's going to continue. There were a lot of bread lines and soup lines. And this is important because as a prepper, if you are prepared for a Great Depression, and we happen to see a Great Depression, it's great that you're prepared for it, but you don't want to appear as though you're prepared. If there are soup lines, go stand in it, even if you have soup at home. You don't want people to know that you're sitting on a stockpile of, you know, for example, Oxen Farms or ReadyWise food, or just a crazy amount of canned food and dehydrated foods and stuff. You don't want people to know that you're doing good. You don't want to go into stores during a depression era and drop hundreds of dollars at a time, because it's going to draw attention your way. Unwanted attention. It's going to make you a target. So you want to be as gray as possible during this time period. So number one, I do believe we are headed into a Great Depression. And number two, I do think it's very important, especially if you're prepping for it, that you're able to blend in with the crowd. And I know that sounds bad, guys, but you want to appear as though you're struggling too, because then people are not going to put a microscope on you. They're not going to ask a lot of questions. They're not going to think twice about you. But if you're that individual that's still dressing nice, and not that I am, or anything, and you're spending tons of money in your local store every other day, cashiers are going to take notice of this. If you're never in bread lines and soup lines, people are going to start to ask questions. So just study this kind of stuff, folks. And there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you would like us to talk about here on Prepper Nation, because again, the format is going to change next week. We should be completely live. I'm shooting for Tuesday morning, folks. We should be completely live, and I'll be able to interact with you folks in real time, and you'll be able to interact with each other in real time. I know y'all have missed that. So let me know in the comments, and thank y'all for being here once again, and God bless.